Welcome to this short tutorial on how to make quarter-half square triangles. To make this unit, you will need one light and one dark 5-inch square and one dark 4.5-inch square. The first thing you want to do is take your white square, your 5.5-inch square, and draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. I'm using my friction pen. The next thing you want to do is to put right sides together. I'm using solids, so with solids, typically don't have to worry about right and wrong sides. Now I'm going to pin these together, and I like to pin the edges to make sure they don't move. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch on either side of the line. Now, if you want to have a guideline and you're not sure, you can do that. So we're going to pretend that this sewing line is actually like the edge of the fabric, and you'll sew 1/4 inch on this side, and then you'll spin that around and sew 1/4 inch on the other side. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to use, let's see if I can find I like to use this Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer ruler, and I'll line up the dotted line here on that line I just drew, and this is 1/4 inch, this kind of blocked out line. So that'll give me my 1/4 inch line on either side, and that will give me a guide. So then I can just follow this stitch line that I just created here and here. So I'm going to go do that, and then we'll do the next step. Okay, so I went ahead and sewed those 2 stitch lines, and it's hard to see on the camera on the white, but I'll flip it over and hopefully you can see the gray there. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is press just to set those seams in. That will also erase the friction pen. You'll see on the back side. And now I'm going to trim away. So you can use any choice of rulers. I'm really enjoying using this ruler here. So again, I'm just going to put it on that stitch line. It should line up to my points across. So here we go. We're going to slice that in half like that. And I'm going to bring in my pressing mat again. As now we're going to press those open. So what that created was 2 half square triangles. And for the purpose of this tutorial, we're just going to use one. So I'm pressing this one open, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to trim this block. So these are the bigger ones, and what we want to do is we want to trim this unit to 4.5 inch finish. So the one way you can trim your unit is to take I have a square ruler here, and we want to square it at 4.5 inches. So here's my 4.5 inch line here. Now if I flip the ruler over, the Creative Grid rulers have these 1/2 inch markings, so you can see that a little bit better. So that's what I'm trying to line up. So I want to line up this diagonal line on the diagonal seam line that I made, and I have quite a bit of wiggle room here, and so I'm going to just pull this down a little bit and making sure my 4.5 is there. And now I'm going to cut it on this side. Now I do have one of those rotating mats. If you do have one of those, it's a lot easier because then you could just rotate your piece around. But I'm going to flip it around this way. This is the edges that we just trimmed. Now we're going to line this up again. And the nice thing again with you can see how the diagonal line is matched up, this edge, and this point right here. So we're going to hold that ruler down, and we're going to trim that off, and that will give us a 4.5 inch finished unit. And if you remember, the other unit is also 4.5 inches, so that's what we're aiming for. So that's one way to trim it up with your regular squared ruler. Okay, the second way that you can do it is using this clearly slotted trimmer ruler. And now the ruler has different markings on it. You can see that there. So we have 1.5, 2.5, and these are 1/2 inch increments. And when you buy the ruler, there's 2 that come, and the other one is all whole numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's really great tool if you want to do it this way. And I find this way can be fast when you're doing lots of half square triangles. So what I'm doing now, again, I'll bring this up to the camera so you can see. So we're going for the 4.5 inch. So we're looking for this dotted line. That's our sew line. And we're not so worried about this, but this is your solid line. And so we're going to line up this dotted line to our seam. And so when we line that up, you can see there's a little bit of an overhang there. And not much. I don't have a lot to trim off on this one here. So I have that lined up. I'm going to hold that down, and then I'm going to go across and trim it this way. I didn't really get much off of that. Yep, okay, so that's it. And then, sorry, and the other thing that's nice about this ruler is it has these little slots here, so I can put my rotary cutter in there. Oops, it moved. This is not like the Creative Grids, doesn't have that grippy stuff on the bottom. Like the Creative Grids, when you push down, it has this technology where it actually does. So anyway, so I need a new blade because this is not cutting. But that's what it does. It takes off those extra little bits, the dog ears, and then that's just scrap. We'll put that in the scrap bin. And then now we open it up, and there's your quarter square triangle, or your half square triangle. And again, we're going to press, for this project, we're pressing the seams open. So sometimes I'll get my seam roller to help me a little bit there. And then I'll bring in the iron, and we'll just press that and flip it over and press. And then that one should be 4.5 inches. So let's see how we did. Let's grab this one and see. Yep, so that's 4.5 inches. Perfect. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this unit, and we're going to make our quarter square triangle unit. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have the light at the top, the dark at the bottom. Before I do that, actually, we're going to make a line on here. We need only one line. We need it diagonally across, point to point. Okay. So again, so the light at the top, the dark at the bottom, and this diagonal seam is going opposite. So the one that's sewn is going towards the right, my right, and this one is going towards my left. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is match that up and pin it. And then I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew right on that line. Okay, here we go. So that's now done. We're going to bring in the pressing mat again, and we're going to press our seams. And before I cut that, I'm going to pull back this corner and make sure that that's the unit that I want. So this is the unit I want, with the white at the top and the orange at the bottom, and this half square on the other side. So now I'm going to take my ruler I'm going to cut this away. So again, I'm going to double check, white at the top, orange at the bottom, and then I'm going to cut this side. So sometimes I'll do like an X. I'll make a mark on this side so that I know that's the part I'm going to cut away before I cut it. So that's right. Double, triple check. And again, I'm lining up my seam line here because I want to cut a 1/4 inch away from that seam. And there we go. And that is your 1/4 square triangle. So we're going to bring that back in and press it open. So it's not cooperating there. Okay, so then just press that open. And when I'm working with bias edges, I tend not to use steam because sometimes I feel it makes it a little wonky. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and starch that unit when you're done. And let's just see, it should finish at 4.5. So there's my 4.5 marks. I'm a little bit out. So what I'm going to do is keep this side because we know we already measured that. And I'm going to line up my 4.5 line here. So 4.5, 4.5, and then that diagonal. Actually, when I do that, I don't think I have any lace, but let's just see. So there's just a smidge, just a tiny, tiny bit. And if you square up your units as you go after you sew each unit, when you go to put your 9 patch together, it goes together really nicely. So there's your tutorial on the 1/4 square triangle, and happy sewing. Thanks so much.